Hi, welcome to my video on adding and subtracting like terms. When adding or subtracting terms in algebra, the terms have to be like terms. Examples, not in algebra. So if you're not in algebra, then we have 2 cars. This is not algebra, this is normal. 2 cars, 4 cars is 6 cars. You say that makes sense. 6 pins, 8 pins is 14 pins. 9 and 12 books is 21 books. 20 degrees, 25 degrees Celsius drop 5 degrees Celsius is a 20 degree Celsius, because drop means subtract. $120 less $30 is $90. That's not in algebra. Notice we're adding and subtracting here. So if we add cars to cars, we get cars. Pins to pins, we get pins. You might say, well, why are you doing that? Well, just watch. What about examples in algebra? Add like terms in each below, similar to A and the above. Add like terms. So let C represent a car. So if you look up here and C represents a car, then you got 2 cars and 4 cars, and guess what we have? 2 and 4 is 6 cars. If you let P represent pins, we have 6 pins, 8 pins. 6 pins and 8 pins gives us 16 pins. So notice now the variable is replacing the car. C is replacing the car. P is replacing the pin. Let B represent books. So 9 books and 12 books. 9 books. Add on 12 books. Gives us 9 and 12, 21 books. Let T represent the Celsius temperature. So we got 25T minus 5T gives us 20T. So Celsius is temperature. 25T subtract 5T gives us 20T. And D represents dollars. $120 is 120 D. D is for dollars. Subtract $30. D is dollars. And when we do that, we get $90. So dollars is being replaced by D. D for dollars, and say B for books, P for pin, C for car. Note, only like terms. What are like terms? Like terms are terms that have the same variable, same exponents. Notice C and a C is like. You add and get 6. P and P is like. You add. B and B is like. You add. T and T like. D and D is like. When you add like terms, you add them up and you take you add up the numbers and take the term. So the numerical coefficients are added or subtracted, and the literal coefficient is kept. So when you add like terms, you add up the numbers, subtract the numbers, and you keep the numerical coefficient. As in adding the C's, you add up the 2 and the 4 to get 6, keep C. Add up the 6 and the 8 to get P, and you keep the P. You add up the 9 and the 12, you get 21, and you keep the B, etc., etc. So some examples: 6 plus 8, add them up, you get 14, and you keep the X. Like terms, that's a 1 understood. So 7 and 1 is 8, A. 9 subtract 4 is 5, and you T. 10 add on negative 9 is 1x, or just x squared. You keep the term. You keep the literal coefficient. And 11 plus 9 is 20, and the term is AY, like terms. You add the numbers and keep the term. Keep the literal coefficient. 40 subtract 30 is 10, and you have a Y. And 8, notice we got a double negative. So in math, a double negative becomes a positive. So 8 plus 3 is 11, and you got a b cubed, like terms. Now we got negative 12, subtract, add. So if you want, that subtract could become add on the negative if you wish. So now that's the negative 1 understood. So negative 12 add on negative 1 is negative 13. Negative 13 plus 4 is a negative 9. And the term is CD. So you add and subtract the numbers and keep the term. You can only add like terms. Stress that. Practice. See if you can work the 9 of these out, and that means you pause your video, and if you're following my videos by now, you know that when you see the word practice, you pause the video, work out the questions, and then play it back to see if you're right. Double negative is a positive. 6 and 2 is 8, and you have a y. Negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7, and you have an x. And you got subtract is add on negative, and that's understood to be a 1, so that's negative 5. When you add two negatives, you add them up, take a negative. A. 11 subtract 15, if you want, plus a negative. That's a negative 4. EF, like terms. Add on, subtract negative 7, so it's a negative 9. B squared. 8, that's a 1 understood. Put it there. 9D. And you're subtracting, so you add on the opposite, which is negative 1. Double negative is a positive, so you got all the negatives gone. 6, subtract 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8, and it's an x, because it's like terms. And we got 13xy, subtract 16, add on negative 16. So 13 negative 16 is negative 3. We subtract the numbers, take the sign which has more of, or the greater absolute value. Absolute value of 13 is 13. Absolute value of negative 16 is 16. That's the greater absolute value. That's the one I have more of. So there's a negative. XY. Double negative is a positive. And B, there's a 1. And add on 1b plus b is 2b. 1b, 1 plus 1 is 2. What if the algebraic expression has unlike terms? So let's say you're going to add each of these. So that's not the same as that. So what we do, we're adding, we can't add them, we just got to write it down. It's 4x plus 9. They're not like terms. That's an x and that's a y. So we just write them down with a plus sign. We can't add these because they're not like terms. That got an a and that doesn't. So that's 6a, and you can put it like that if you want, or you could go 6a, add on negative 1, your choice. Because when you subtract, you add on the opposite, so it's either or. If you're combining those, you can't. Remember, that's not negative. You can't multiply them. You can't add them together because they're not like terms. Keep that in mind. You can only add like terms. If an algebraic expression has like terms and non-like terms, what do? Well, let's follow some examples. Since only like terms can be added or subtracted, you have to group the like terms and simplify. Okay. We're going to simplify these 4 terms here. So I got a 3x, so I put down the 3x first. I look through and say, oh, I got a 4x, so I'll put that one right there, right next to it. So now I got a plus 6 and a plus 2. Notice I grouped the like terms together. Notice as I move these, I didn't change the sign. When we do equations in another unit, then you'll see that when you move them in an equation across the equal sign, you have to change the plus to a minus, etc. But when you're adding and subtracting here, you don't, when you move these around, you don't change the sign. So add is a 7x and an 8, because they're on like terms. You group your like terms 10a and plus a. Minus, subtract 4b, subtract b. So I group in my like terms. A's go with A's, B's with B's, and I don't change the signs. Notice out here I have a negative 4, so that's plus a negative if you want. And that's a 1, so that's plus a negative. So 10 plus 1, that's a 1. 10 plus 1 is 11, A. And add on, and I got a negative 5B. Group your terms, but as you move them, don't change your sign. C, like terms. Let's see. Well, I got some negatives here, so let's get rid of the negatives first. Subtract, add on the opposite. Double negative is a positive. When I subtract, I add on the opposite. So we got that done. Now we got all pluses. So let's group our like terms. We got an 8x goes. Any more x's? Yep. Plus 2x. So I got those two done. And I got a 9, so it's a plus negative 9. And I got a 7, so they're like terms. And I got a 11y. Add on negative 15y. So I got my like terms. I got them all used up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 4, 6. X's go together. Constants go together. Numbers go together. Y's go together. 8 and 2 is 10. X. Negative 9 add on 7 is negative 2. And 11, negative 15 is negative 4y. So when you add like terms, you keep the term or the literal coefficient and add or subtract your numbers. And that's done. Okay, let's do some practice. Always practice. Every time I explain something, I always give a practice to back it up. You work these out now. Work out this whole page. Go ahead of me. Pause the video, work them out, and press play and see if you're right. And if you're right, great, super. If not, look where you went wrong. And do one step at a time. Here we go. I got a negative 2, so I'll add on so negative 6 and 8 goes with it. Negative 6x and 8x plus negative 2 plus 1. So I put the like terms together, and that gives me 2x when I add, and that gives me a negative 1. And remember, that could also be 2x minus 1 if you want. As you do more math, you won't see. This is only when you start out in the earlier grades you'll see this. And as you get older, you'll find that this plus a negative, well, I just call it a subtract. But it's up to you how you want to do it. So double negative is a positive, and when I subtract, I add on the opposite. So I got 11a. Any more terms like that one? Yep. 3a. And I got a 2b. And I got a negative 9b. So my like terms are grouped. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them. And that's a 14a. And it's a plus negative 7b or 14a. You could have either or. It's your choice until you get used to it. Add on negative 7, the same as subtract 7. Number 3, I have a subtract, so I add on the opposite. So 4x squared, and I got to add on negative x squared, and then I got an 8x and a plus x. So notice the x squareds are together and the x's are together. 4 terms, yep. So add, I get 3x squared. Add, remember that's a 1, so that's a 9x. When you add like terms, you add up the numbers or subtract the numbers and take the term or the literal coefficient. And for number 4, I got subtract negative 10, subtract negative r. So I got a negative 7r plus negative r plus negative 10 plus 6. And when I add those, notice that's a 1 there. There's negative 8r plus negative 4. Or you could have negative 8r, subtract 4, your choice, or. Number 5, I have plus a negative again, done. And I have 14m plus negative 2m plus m, and the 3 goes last because I put the m's together. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Yep, we got them all. And 14 negative 2 is 12, and that's a 1 understood, so that's a 13m, and there's no more numbers to go with the 3. Just leave the 3 by itself. Number 6, add on the opposite, subtract, I add on negative 7. I got an xy and an xy there, negative 9xy. Add on 12xy, and they're gone. I got a plus 4 and a plus 4x, be careful, plus negative 7x. They're all used up. Notice again, when I'm moving these at first step, I do not change the sign. When I move that 12 over here, that 12xy, I didn't change the sign. When I move, don't change the signs. 3xy and negative plus negative 3x, or 3xy, subtract 3x, your choice. I put the or in. That's a y. And number 7, a long one. Let's take your time. X squared b, done. Any more x squared b's? Right? A squared b, where to get the x at. I'm going to add on the opposites first. Don't forget that. Add on the opposites makes it so plus negative 4a squared b. So that one and that one is done. Now I have a 6ab squared plus 6ab squared. Do I have any more? Yep. Plus 7. Negative 7ab squared. And I have negative 7ab. And I have a positive 10ab. It just takes a while just to get used to. But you start here, write this term down, and find if there's any more. If you find them, scratch them out. That's what I do, scratch them out. Then I look at the next one, put it next, and then I find if there's any more. Just keep going left to right. And when you add these up, you have negative 3a squared b. When you add these two, I get a negative 1, and the 1 is understood. And when I add these, I get a 3ab. Negative 7 to 10 is 3ab. Add these, that's a negative 1. There's the 1 understood. You can write it in if you want. And if you want, you don't have to have plus negatives. That's a minus ab squared. So you're going to have the top line right here, or you're going to have this one. To add on a negative means same subtract. And we got 3 diagrams. The perimeter. The perimeter means to add up the sides, the sum. Perimeter means the distance around, sum of the lengths. And I didn't bother to put in units as in inches or feet or centimeters or meters. I just said, let's add these. So the perimeter is 4x plus 6x plus 8. Add them up. And so that's 10x plus 8. You can go around whatever way you wish. You can start here and go around so you don't miss them. Or you can go 5x plus 10 plus 7x plus 4. You can go around and pick them as you did, like I did. Then group them. There they are, grouped together. X's go together in numbers. 12x plus 14. Or if you want, you might want to look at that and say, I got a 5x, and any more like it, yeah, I got a 7x, then I got a 10, and then I got a 4. So as you're looking at these, and you know you got to add them up, group them together. You can write it down like this, and then group them, or you can group them from the beginning and get the answer. It's your choice. Number 3, excuse me, you can start with the 8x and say plus 11 plus 4x plus 17 plus 7x. So start here, that one plus that one plus that one plus that one plus that one. Then group them. What that does, I'm grouping the x's together and grouping the numbers together. And 15, 19x and 18, 28. 11 and 17 is 28. So that's how you add the like terms when you're adding or simplifying these expressions. That brings us to the end of the video. And if you like my video, click on the like button, subscribe button if you haven't already done so, the notification bell, write a comment on the video, and you may visit my math website, mathfullyexplained.com, and there you get information on different sections. One on me, section on videos, tells you about the teaching strategies, and the section on content gives you the topics I have online and the number of videos on each topic, and also black font is what's online right now, and the red font will be online in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.